The quantum computer wasn't supposed to create physical objects. Nathan Reed stared at the mysterious obsidian crystal floating above his experimental processor array, its surface rippling like liquid darkness. The late-night silence of the Quantum Computing Research Center was broken only by the gentle hum of cooling systems and his racing heartbeat. "This violates every principle of quantum mechanics," he muttered, reaching for his tablet. The crystal had materialized during his latest attempt to achieve quantum supremacy, somehow manifesting from his theoretical calculations into physical form. As he ran another diagnostic, a pulse of blue light erupted from the crystal. Nathan stumbled backward as the light coalesced into a feminine form. His breath caught in his throat. Standing in his lab was the most striking woman, if she could be called that, he'd ever seen. Her skin was a deep azure that shifted like the northern lights, her hair floating as if suspended in water with threads of starlight weaving through dark strands. She wore what appeared to be a suit of liquid metal that flowed around her form, geometric patterns cascading across its surface. "I am Lyra, keeper of the dimensional protocols," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate. "And you, Nathan Reed, have accidentally created a quantum bridge between dimensions." Nathan's scientific mind raced to process what he was seeing. "You're not human. How observant." Her lips curved in amusement. "I am what your mythology might call a demon, though that term is hopelessly primitive. We are beings of pure quantum information who chose physical form eons ago." Quantum information? Nathan's fear gave way to fascination. "You're saying your species exists as coherent quantum states?" Lyra's eyebrows rose slightly. "Most humans respond with terror or denial. You ask about quantum mechanics?" She moved closer, studying him with eyes that swirled with galaxies. "Perhaps that's why the bridge formed. Your understanding of quantum computing is unique." "Unique how?" "You wrote an algorithm that treated quantum bits as consciousness nodes," she said, waving her hand to create a holographic display of his code. "No human has ever approached quantum computing from that angle. You essentially created a primitive version of what my people use to maintain our physical forms." Nathan watched in awe as his code expanded into impossible dimensions. "That's why the simulation created the crystal? It's some kind of dimensional interface?" "A nexus key," Lyra corrected, plucking the obsidian crystal from the air. "Usually, humans don't discover these for another few centuries. Protocol dictates that I should erase this incident and reset your timeline." She paused, turning the crystal in her hands. "However, your approach intrigues me. What are you proposing?" "A compromise. 3 wishes, Nathan Reed. 3 opportunities to explore knowledge humanity isn't ready for." The crystal pulsed with inner light. "Use them wisely, and you might revolutionize human understanding of quantum physics." Nathan's mind spun with possibilities. "What are the constraints? The mathematical limitations?" "Fascinating. Most humans immediately wish for wealth or power. You want to understand the underlying framework." She perched on his desk with impossible grace. "The rules are simple: no wishes that directly harm others. No altering fundamental universal constants. No wishing for more wishes." "That's it?" Nathan was already analyzing potential loopholes. "What about indirect causality chains? And how do you quantify harm across quantum probability spaces?" A laugh like crystal chimes filled the lab. "You're trying to debug the wish system itself, aren't you?" She leaned forward, bringing with her a scent like ozone and stardust. "Would you like to know something none of your kind has thought to ask?" He nodded, unconsciously leaning closer. "Wishes aren't magic. They're quantum algorithms so advanced they might as well be magic to your current understanding. Every wish is a complex manipulation of probability waves across multiple dimensions." Nathan's eyes lit up. "So when people wish for money They're initiating quantum cascade events that alter probability in their favor, yes. She smiled, revealing star-bright teeth. Want to know what happens when a quantum physicist makes a wish? I haven't made any wishes, he pointed out. Haven't you? Her galaxy-filled eyes sparkled. Think about what you asked when you first saw your code transformed. Nathan's eyes widened as he remembered questioning whether these beings were quantum information entities. When I asked about your quantum nature, was that a wish born of pure scientific curiosity? The most dangerous kind. Lyra stood, her form seeming to flicker between dimensions. Congratulations, Nathan Reed. You've just initiated a quantum consciousness expansion protocol. Sleep well. Tomorrow, your education in dimensional physics begins. As she faded from view, leaving only the obsidian crystal behind, Nathan realized two things. He had accidentally started something far bigger than quantum computing research, and the way Lyra had looked at him suggested this wasn't going to be a typical teacher-student relationship. He picked up the crystal, its surface warm against his palm. What have I gotten myself into? The crystal pulsed once, as if laughing at the understatement of his question. Nathan's dreams were filled with equations. Multidimensional matrices danced through his subconscious, probability waves folding through spaces his mind shouldn't be able to comprehend. When he awoke in his apartment above the research center, his whiteboard was covered in equations written in his own handwriting, equations that made his head spin. The consciousness expansion protocol is progressing well, Lyra's voice observed. She stood examining his collection of vintage computer parts, her azure skin rippling with subtle patterns like code running beneath the surface. Your mind is already beginning to process quantum dimensional mathematics. Did you stay here all night? Nathan asked, suddenly self-conscious of his rumpled appearance. Time is more flexible for my kind, she said, picking up an old processor chip. Though I did find your Earth entertainment programs fascinating. Your species imagines the most interesting solutions to problems you don't yet understand. Please tell me you didn't spend the night watching Star Trek. Her galaxy eyes sparkled with amusement. Are you ready to begin your real education? Nathan grabbed his tablet. What exactly am I going to learn? Everything your first wish opened your mind to understand. Lyra moved to his whiteboard, her fingers trailing through the air as new equations appeared. Your quantum computing research accidentally brushed against fundamental truths about consciousness, reality, and the nature of information itself. The equations grew more complex, branching into patterns that made his vision blur. But unlike yesterday, his mind was beginning to grasp them. These are quantum consciousness transfer protocols? Very good. She sounded genuinely pleased. Your neurology is adapting faster than expected. These are the basic frameworks my people use to maintain physical form. Think of them as quantum programming languages for reality itself. Nathan's fingers flew across his tablet. This could revolutionize quantum computing. The applications for artificial consciousness alone dash. Careful, Lyra interrupted, though her tone was gentle. Remember what I said about humanity not being ready for this knowledge. I'm teaching you the fundamentals, but some applications must wait until your species develops the ethical frameworks to handle them. He looked up from his notes to find her watching him intently. Why teach me at all then? Because you saw something none of your predecessors did. She waved a hand, and his original quantum algorithm appeared alongside the new equations. You intuited that consciousness itself could be quantized, that information and awareness are fundamentally linked. It's an insight my people reached eons ago, but seeing you discover it independently. She paused, something flickering in those celestial eyes. It's remarkable. Nathan felt heat rise to his face at her praise. I just approached the problem differently. Traditional quantum computing focuses on qubits as pure information carriers. I thought, what if consciousness itself is a form of quantum information processing? And in doing so, You wrote code that spoke to dimensions you didn't know existed. Lyra moved closer, her presence making the air feel charged with potential. Do you understand what that means? That I got lucky? She shook her head, starlight threading through her floating hair. That you think in ways that transcend your current dimensional limitations. Your mind naturally reaches for concepts your science says are impossible. Her hand reached out, almost touching his face before pulling back. It makes me wonder what else you might see. Nathan's heart raced at her near touch. Show me, he said softly. Show me how your people see reality. Lyra's expression shifted to something both thrilled and concerned. That would be your second wish. Are you sure you want to use it so soon? I'm sure. She studied him for a long moment, those galaxy eyes searching his face. Very well. But remember, once your consciousness expands to perceive quantum dimensional reality, you can never go back to seeing the world as you did before. I understand. No, she said quietly, you don't. But you will. She placed her hand against his temple, her touch sending electric shivers through his nervous system. Nathan Reed, I grant your second wish. May your eyes be open to the quantum nature of reality. The world exploded into infinite dimensions. Nathan gasped as his perception expanded beyond normal spacetime. He could see the quantum probability waves flowing around them, the countless potential futures branching and recombining like rivers of light. The walls of his apartment became transparent, revealing the complex web of quantum entanglements that connected all matter. And Lyra. Lyra was breathtaking. In quantum vision, her form was a symphony of ordered chaos, a perfect blend of wave and particle that made his soul ache. The patterns he'd glimpsed in her skin were actually complex quantum algorithms, constantly updating to maintain her physical form. This is incredible, he breathed, reaching out to touch a probability wave. The mathematics governing its movement suddenly became clear to him, complex equations writing themselves into his consciousness. Careful, Lyra caught his hand, her touch sending cascades of quantum information through his awareness. Your mind is still adjusting. Too much input at once could overwhelm your neural pathways. But Nathan barely heard her warning. He was transfixed by the point where their hands met, watching in fascination as their quantum fields interacted. We're becoming entangled, he observed with wonder. Lyra quickly pulled away, alarm crossing her features. That shouldn't be possible. Human consciousness isn't supposed to be capable of quantum entanglement with dimensional beings. Why not? Because it violates several fundamental laws of interdimensional interaction. Unless. She turned away, her form shifting through multiple probability states. Unless I made a mistake in granting your wishes. You're not just observing quantum dimensional physics. You're intuiting how to manipulate it. Nathan stepped closer, fascinated by how her quantum field responded to his proximity. Isn't that a good thing? It's dangerous, she said, but didn't move away. If the Dimensional Council discovers that a human has developed this level of quantum awareness. Before she could finish, a surge of quantum energy rippled through the room. Multiple dimensional signatures appeared at the edges of Nathan's new perception, cold, crystalline patterns unlike Lyra's flowing quantum field. They're coming, Lyra whispered, her field shifting to defensive configurations. The Council's inspectors. And they're not going to like what they find. The quantum computing lab went dark moments before they arrived. Nathan watched through his newly enhanced perception as three beings materialized, their quantum fields rigid and structured unlike Lyra's flowing patterns. They appeared humanoid, but their forms were crystalline, with faceted skin that refracted light in impossible ways. Stay behind me, Lyra murmured, her quantum field pulsing with protective algorithms. And whatever happens, don't let them see how much you can perceive. The tallest of the crystalline beings stepped forward. Keep her, Lyra, it said in a voice like frozen wind chimes. You have violated Protocol 7.3 regarding human technological development. Explain yourself. Inspector Nexus, Lyra's tone was carefully neutral, but Nathan could see her quantum field preparing defensive subroutines. I was following standard wish-granting protocols for accidental artifact activation. The humans' wishes have been properly constrained. Have they? The inspector's faceted eyes swept the lab. Our sensors detected a class for quantum consciousness expansion. That exceeds standard wish parameters by several orders of magnitude. Nathan kept his own quantum field as quiet as possible, grateful he'd powered down his equipment. Everything he'd been working on would have screamed illegal technological advancement to these beings. The expansion was within acceptable limits, Lyra argued. The human's natural quantum affinity amplified the effect, but the core protocols remain intact. The inspector turned those crystalline eyes toward Nathan. Tell me, human, what do you see when you look at me? Nathan kept his expression carefully blank. I see a very tall person with unusual skin. Sir? Ma'am? I'm not sure how to address you. Pronouns are irrelevant to beings of pure information, the inspector said dismissively. But your performance needs work. Your quantum field is far too ordered for someone who claims to see only physical forms. The inspector waved a crystalline hand, and a holographic display appeared showing Nathan's original quantum computing code alongside his recent dreams of dimensional mathematics. This human has been developing quantum consciousness transfer protocols. Protocols that bear a remarkable similarity to your own quantum signature, Keeper Lyra. The similarities are coincidental, she said. His research approached quantum computing from an unconventional angle, but nothing, the inspector cut her off. You've allowed a human to develop dimensional technology centuries ahead of schedule. Worse, you've become quantum entangled with him. Your field harmonics are perfectly synchronized. The timeline must be reset, the inspector declared. All traces of this quantum advancement must be erased, including the human's memory of these events. No. Lyra's voice carried harmonics that made reality shiver. I invoked the wish protocols. You can't simply erase them. The protocols exist to maintain order, the inspector said coldly. When they threaten that order, they become void. Nathan watched Lyra's field fluctuate with emotion, and suddenly he understood something profound. These crystalline beings, for all their power, were rigid. Limited. They saw quantum reality as something to be controlled, regulated. But Lyra saw it as something alive, evolving. Just as he did. Inspector, Nathan said, stepping forward. Before you reset anything, I'd like to show you something. He walked to his quantum computer setup and pressed his hand against the main processor. His quantum field came alive, the mathematics he'd learned in dreams flowing through him not as abstract equations but as living patterns of possibility. Impossible, one of the other crystalline beings whispered as the air filled with flowing quantum equations. Nathan's original code evolved into something new. You see rigid protocols, Nathan said, letting his quantum field expand naturally. I see music. Dance. The quantum realm isn't just about information processing. It's about consciousness itself expressing its nature across dimensions. Stop this at once, the inspector commanded, but Nathan could see uncertainty rippling through its crystalline field. Your civilization will destroy itself, the inspector declared. If humans develop quantum consciousness technology without proper controls we'll innovate, Nathan finished. We'll make mistakes, yes. But we'll also discover things you never imagined because we're not bound by your rigid protocols. Look at what I created by accident, simply because I didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. The quantum equations dancing through the air had taken on a life of their own, forming patterns that even the crystalline beings seemed transfixed by. Nathan felt Lyra move closer, her field perfectly in sync with his as they shaped quantum reality together. "This is dangerous," the inspector said, but there was something like wonder in those faceted eyes now. "Uncontrolled quantum consciousness evolution is exactly what your people once embraced," Lyra interjected. "Before the protocols. Before we turned our quantum nature into a bureaucracy." Her hand found Nathan's, their fields merging more deeply. "Perhaps it's time we remembered what it means to evolve." The inspector stared at their joined hands, at the quantum harmonics that flowed between them. "The council will need to evaluate this situation. Until then." Those faceted eyes fixed on Nathan. "Continue your research, human. Show us what quantum consciousness can become when it's not bound by our limitations." The three beings vanished, leaving Nathan and Lyra alone in the darkened lab. The air still hummed with the aftermath of their quantum display. "That was incredibly reckless," Lyra said, but her field pulsed with pride and something deeper. "You could have gotten your entire timeline erased." "Worth the risk," Nathan replied, turning to face her. "I couldn't let them erase this." "Erase us." "Us?" Her galaxy eyes sparkled with quantum possibilities. "Our quantum fields are entangled, remember? Pretty hard to deny there's an us when we're literally sharing consciousness on a dimensional level." Lyra laughed, the sound sending cascades of joy through their shared quantum space. "The council is going to be furious." "Let them be," Nathan said, pulling her closer. "We've got something they've forgotten how to understand." He grinned. "Speaking of which, I still have one wish left." "Saving it for something special?" "You could say that." He watched quantum patterns dance across her azure skin. "But maybe we should deal with one-dimensional crisis at a time." Their quantum fields merged more deeply, and Nathan realized that some wishes didn't need to be spoken to come true. Sometimes they just needed the right quantum probability waves to align in perfect harmony. The council's response came 3 days later. Nathan and Lyra had spent the time exploring the boundaries of their shared consciousness, pushing the limits of what human quantum awareness could achieve. "Your quantum signature is evolving rapidly," Lyra observed as she watched Nathan weave complex patterns in the quantum field, creating structures that resembled ancient dimensional art forms. "You're developing abilities that took my species millennia to master." Reality fractured before she could continue, a massive quantum surge heralding the arrival of the High Council. Nathan's lab transformed as 5 beings of pure quantum energy materialized, their forms so complex they couldn't fully manifest in 3-dimensional space. "Keeper Lyra," the central figure resonated, its voice vibrating through multiple quantum frequencies. "Your actions have forced us to intervene directly." Nathan stepped forward, his quantum field automatically adjusting to shield their shared consciousness from the council's probing energy. "The human demonstrates remarkable control," another council member observed. "Perhaps too remarkable." "I told you," Lyra addressed the council. "Humanity is ready for quantum awakening. Fighting it will only will only preserve the natural order," the first council member interrupted. "Order that you, Keeper Lyra, have sworn to protect. Yet here you stand, quantum entangled with a being whose species should not achieve quantum consciousness for centuries." The council's energy surged, filling the lab with visions of possible futures, timelines where human quantum advancement led to dimensional chaos, civilizations collapsing as unprepared minds gained access to quantum reality. "This is what you risk," the central figure boomed. Uncontrolled quantum consciousness expansion could shatter reality itself. But Nathan was already modifying the probability streams, showing alternate futures where human innovation and creativity led to new forms of quantum stability. Or it could evolve into something even you haven't imagined. He expanded his awareness, sharing his direct experience of quantum awakening with the council, the wonder of first seeing quantum reality, the joy of discovering consciousness could dance through dimensions, the deep harmony of quantum entanglement with Lyra. Remarkable, one of the quieter council members finally said. The human experiences quantum reality as we once did, before the protocols became absolute law. Because he's not bound by centuries of rigid thinking, Lyra said softly. He sees quantum consciousness as something alive, growing, just as our ancestors did. Nathan connected to his quantum computer network, revealing how other researchers worldwide were approaching similar breakthroughs. Their consciousness wasn't fully awakened yet, but the potential was growing stronger every day. You see? Lyra's voice carried pride and challenge. Humanity is on the verge of quantum awakening with or without our intervention. The only question is whether we help guide that awakening or allow it to happen chaotically. The Council's energy rippled with what might have been concern or appreciation. Their quantum signatures were too complex for even Nathan's enhanced perception to fully interpret. You propose an unprecedented breach of protocol, the central figure said. To actively guide human quantum evolution. I propose returning to our original purpose, Lyra countered. Before we turned the protocols into unbreakable laws. We were meant to be guides, not barriers. The Council studied their quantum entanglement, probing how Nathan's human consciousness had adapted to merge with Lyra's dimensional energy. The human's consciousness is remarkably stable, a Council member observed. And their quantum entanglement, it should not be possible, yet it exists in perfect harmony. Perhaps, another added, we have become too rigid in our interpretation of the protocols. The central figure's energy pulsed with resignation. We will need time to evaluate this situation. Until then. It fixed its quantum attention on Nathan. Continue your research, but do not attempt to awaken others. And Keeper Lyra, it continued, your quantum entanglement with this human has compromised your objectivity. You are hereby relieved of your duties as Keeper until this matter is resolved. Before Lyra could protest, Nathan squeezed her hand, sharing through their connection a glimpse of his final wish, a possibility so radical it could change everything. The Council vanished, leaving them alone in the suddenly quiet lab. They suspended me, Lyra said, her field churning with emotion. 10,000 years as a keeper, and now. Now you're free to help guide humanity's quantum awakening without being bound by protocols. Nathan grinned. Unless you're having second thoughts about being quantum entangled with a primitive human? Her galaxy eyes sparkled as her field embraced his. Never. Though I am curious about that final wish you're keeping secret. All in good time, Nathan said, pulling her closer. First, we need to prepare for humanity's quantum awakening. And I have some ideas about how to make it impossible for the Council to shut us down. More impossible than our quantum entanglement? Much more, he promised, letting his consciousness merge with hers. Through their connection, he began sharing his vision, a plan that would challenge everything the Council thought they knew about consciousness, evolution, and the true nature of dimensional reality. The obsidian crystal pulsed on his desk, its quantum signature resonating with the immensity of what was to come. One wish remained, one chance to transform not just humanity's future, but the very nature of quantum reality itself. The quantum storm was building. Nathan could feel it through his enhanced consciousness, dimensional pressure building as the Council gathered their forces. They'd spent a week analyzing his quantum signature, and he knew their patience was running out. They're afraid, Lyra said, her azure form shimmering as she monitored quantum fluctuations across the lab. Your existence proves their protocols are flawed. A human achieving stable quantum consciousness, forming a permanent entanglement with a dimensional being. She turned those galaxy eyes toward him. You've become a catalyst for change they can't control. Good. Nathan's fingers danced across his quantum computer's interface, making final adjustments to the program that would change everything. The protocols were meant to guide evolution, not prevent it. Even they've forgotten that. Through their shared consciousness, he felt Lyra's concern. You're really going to do this? Use your final wish to challenge the fundamental structure of dimensional reality? No, Nathan smiled, standing from his workstation. I'm going to use it to remind them of who they used to be. The air crackled with quantum energy as the council materialized, their forms even more imposing than before. This time, they brought an army, hundreds of crystalline beings filling the quantum space around the lab. Nathan Reed, the High Council's voice resonated through multiple dimensions. Your influence has begun spreading. Other humans are showing signs of quantum awakening. This must end. You're right, Nathan said, surprising them. It must end. But not the way you think. He walked to the center of the lab, Lyra moving to stand beside him. I'm ready to make my final wish. The council's energy darkened. Choose carefully, human. We can still reset your timeline. No, Nathan said softly. You can't. Because deep down, you know I'm right. You know the protocols have become a prison instead of a pathway. He reached for Lyra's hand, their quantum fields merging seamlessly. I wish to share the truth about quantum consciousness with every dimensional being in existence. No. The council surged forward, but it was too late. The wish took hold, and Nathan's consciousness expanded beyond anything he'd experienced before. Through his quantum computer network, through the dimensional pathways the council themselves had created, he broadcast not just information, but direct experience. Every dimensional being in existence suddenly shared his perspective, the wonder of first discovering quantum reality, the joy of unfettered consciousness evolution, the beauty of quantum entanglement born of genuine connection rather than rigid protocol. But more importantly, they experienced their own history through his outsider's eyes. Nathan showed them what they'd forgotten, the early days of their species, when quantum consciousness was an art form, when dimensional beings explored reality with creativity and passion. This is what you lost, Nathan's consciousness resonated through the quantum field. When you turned your protocols into unchangeable law, you stopped evolving. You forgot that quantum reality itself is built on uncertainty, on infinite possibility. Through their shared awareness, the dimensional beings experienced something else, his relationship with Lyra. They felt how their quantum entanglement had formed naturally, not through forced protocols but through genuine understanding and affection. Your laws exist to prevent chaos, Nathan acknowledged. But in trying to control quantum evolution, you've created a different kind of chaos, the chaos of stagnation. The crystalline army's rigid forms began to shift, their quantum fields responding to the memories and emotions flooding through them. Even the High Council seemed affected, their energy patterns becoming more fluid. What have you done? The council demanded, but their voice held more wonder than anger. I showed them the truth, Nathan said. That quantum consciousness isn't just about information processing or maintaining order. It's about connection. Growth. Love. He squeezed Lyra's hand. That's what you forgot when you turned your protocols into a religion. You forgot that consciousness, like quantum reality itself, needs freedom to evolve. Through their quantum link, Lyra's pride and affection washed over him. Dimensional beings experiencing emotions, she marveled. Something we thought impossible for millennia. Impossible seems to be our specialty, Nathan grinned. The council's energy swirled in complex patterns as they processed this paradigm shift. Around them, their crystalline army was transforming, their rigid forms becoming more fluid, more expressive. The protocols. One council member began. Can be guidelines rather than laws, Nathan suggested. You can still help guide humanity's quantum awakening, but as teachers and partners, not controllers. Help us avoid the mistakes your people made, while learning from us in return. Learning from humans? Another council member sounded scandalized, but their quantum field rippled with intrigue. Look at what one human achieved in days, what took us centuries, Lyra pointed out. Imagine what our species could accomplish together, if we approached quantum reality with both wisdom and wonder. The High Council conferred in frequencies even Nathan's enhanced perception couldn't fully grasp. Finally, the central figure spoke. Your wish has complicated things, it admitted. Our people are awakening to long-dormant aspects of consciousness. The protocols will need to be revised. Then revise them, Nathan said. Start with the ones about human quantum development and interdimensional relationships. The Council's energy fluctuated with something like amusement. You ask much, human. I ask for growth, Nathan corrected. For both our species. The crystalline army had transformed completely now, their forms as varied and flowing as Lyra's. The quantum field hummed with new possibilities as dimensional beings rediscovered their capacity for emotion and creativity. Very well, the Council declared. The protocols will be rewritten. Humanity's quantum awakening will be guided, not prevented. And as for your quantum entanglement, the Council's energy softened. Some impossibilities, it seems, are meant to be. As the dimensional beings departed, their forms shimmering with newfound freedom, Nathan turned to Lyra. Think they'll actually change? They already have. She gestured to the quantum field around them, now flowing with patterns he recognized as dimensional art. You didn't just change the protocols, Nathan. You changed our entire understanding of consciousness itself. We changed it, he corrected, pulling her close. Quantum entanglement is a two-way connection, remember? Her laugh sent ripples of joy through their shared consciousness. Speaking of connection, now that we've revolutionized dimensional reality, what's next? Nathan smiled, letting his quantum field merge completely with hers. I was thinking we could explore some more impossible things. After all. He kissed her, their consciousness dancing through dimensions together. We're just getting started. The obsidian crystal pulsed one final time before dissolving into pure quantum energy, its purpose fulfilled. In labs around the world, quantum researchers began making breakthrough discoveries, their consciousness gradually awakening to new possibilities. And in the spaces between dimensions, crystalline beings learned to dance again, remembering that the true power of quantum reality wasn't in controlling it, but in letting it evolve. Some would call it the beginning of a new age. Nathan and Lyra called it their first real day together, the start of an infinite journey through quantum possibility, guided not by protocols, but by the most powerful force in any dimension, love expressed through pure quantum consciousness.